right, everyone. Good morning. And for the final time this week, let's do the morning briefing. I am Hamish. Tony's here as well. Hello, Tony.
How you doing? You all right? Yes, I'm still alive. I was a couple of days holiday there, so in case people wondering what happened, I'm here, alive and well. All good.
Still in heaven, I see as well.
Oh, and heaven, yeah, it's just the way the sun shines in this window, and it's very rare for it to shine like this in East Kilbride, so I'm enjoying it as much as I can.
At least you're getting a wee bit of sun this time of year, and hopefully that continues. Hopefully the weather's good tomorrow at Celtic Park. We can chat a little bit about that today, look ahead to the game, talk more generally about what we want to see from Celtic over the final 3 league games, and just whatever else comes up, to be honest. We can just have a general chat. So morning, everyone. Thanks for tuning in and spending a little bit of your Friday with us. Just before we get started, a quick word from our sponsor. This Celtic Way video is brought to you by S1 Jobs. If it's time to hand in your transfer request, then head over to s1jobs.com and upload your CV today. With thousands of jobs across Glasgow, Edinburgh and the surrounding areas, you'll find the one at S1 Jobs. Start your search today. We also have this brilliant offer at the moment, Tony.
Oh, tremendous. Who wouldn't want to have lunch with a legend? I've been trying to win it myself every time it's been on. I can't. I'm not allowed to see me. So there you go. But yep, open to all subscribers, new and old. Get involved, guys. £1 for 6 months of access, but also you could win lunch with a Celtic legend, Martin O'Neill. We've interviewed him once before on the Celtic podcast, and he was brilliant value. I gave him, I might have said this before, but I gave him the big intro as I do with guests. And I knew it was going to be a good show when he turned around and said to me, "Thank you for that long and laboured intro, Tony." Yeah. I just thought, right, we're off to a flyer. He's got a great sense of humour, very dry, very droll, but his stories are wonderful. So yeah, get involved with that, guys. £1 and you could win a lunch with Martin O'Neill and a date you'll remember for the rest of your life.
Yeah, you certainly would. Okay, get involved there, everyone, and obviously you get the benefits of all the great stuff on the website as well, including your chat with Dedryck Boyata earlier in the week. Anything you want to share about that?
Yeah, I mean, he was very forthright and honest and open, wasn't he? In terms of, he spoke his version of the truth. Other people's version of that truth differed, didn't it? Quite considerably so, reading between the lines. But yeah, I mean, he was great to talk to, and nothing was out of bounds. He answered it all correctly. I did wonder how he couldn't have seen the banner, though. Well, you had to not fit to wear the jersey, and he said he didn't see it. Yet he scored the winner that day, so I guess that was So that
Hamilton, we were playing.
Hamilton, yeah, and he was very forthright about that. He was sort of saying to me, I think that was a better story, was it not? Well, therein lieth the rub. I think he's a divisive player, isn't he? He divides opinion amongst the Celtic supporters. A lot of people probably never ever forgave him for the Ike Athens episode. You know, I think whatever version you accept as the truth, then that's, why would the manager lie about his fitness? But the player maintained, he doubled down on the fact that he wasn't fit. Well, there was a bid from Fulham in the ether, wasn't there, and various things at play, agents getting involved and stuff like that. So, you, as I always say, join the dots, connect the lines, whatever version of the truth you think is right or you believe to be right, then I guess that's the one you want. But it was an interesting chat. I like talking to people who have things to say, and he wasn't short of things to say, was he? So that's always interesting when that happens.
Well, that's what you're looking for, isn't it, when you do any interview? So people can read that online and get involved there. Fabulous stuff. Okay, Captain Hindsight saying, happy for Big Ange. His speech in the Tottenham dressing room reminded me about what a leader in human he is. Yeah, I'm sensing a lot of, I guess, happiness towards Ange. And obviously Spurs haven't won the trophy. I think people... I don't know, I've noticed some people, even Spurs fans, getting a little bit ahead of themselves. They still have an incredibly difficult final against a team that's very strong in finals in Man United. But I've got a wee feeling that our former manager might be about to win a trophy at Spurs, and they don't win many of them. So I think that's, away from all the Celtic stuff that's happening, that's probably one of the main storylines people are going to be watching for the rest of the season.
He's just a fantastic orator, isn't he? He was tailor-made for these situations. you've heard him speak many times about Celtic and glowingly about them. And, I think lots of people enjoyed his style of football, just enjoyed him as a person and the way he spoke in press conference situations and to the players in the dressing room. So, some people don't wish him the best, others do wish him the best. Personally, I would like to see him win it and keep good on his promise that he always wins a trophy every second season. He's had a lot to contend with down there, and he alluded to that, didn't he? He told the players that as well, and and others are up in arms about the fact that the Europa League winners go into the Champions League. That's always been the prize for winning the Europa League, or it has been the last few years. Didn't hear this when Atalanta won it last year, last year, wasn't it? And swashbuckled away against a team who were unbeaten, and Bayer Leverkusen were going for a kind of invincible season. So nobody really brought out a stick and beat Atalanta over the head with it for getting into the Champions League. So I think Tottenham have had a kind of raw deal with people up in arms about that. And the fact that it's the team that are respectively 15th and 17th in the English Premier League, lots of people getting annoyed about that. They never set out to be 15th or 17th in the English Premier League, did they?
It's also it's an obvious thing to say, but it's a different competition. Like the league isn't relevant at all to what's happening in Europe.
Yeah, and they never set out to play each other in the Europa League final. You set out to win a tournament that you play in. The virtue of the fact that it's two teams from the English Premier League who usually are further up the table tells you a lot. But listen, the two of them have fought through to the final. It'll be hoping it's a cracking final. But I think because of the vested interest you have in it, you would want to see Ange win.
100%.
Right? And I don't know about you. I was disappointed in the way he left, but you quickly get over it, don't you? You quickly say, fine, I don't wish him ill, I wish him all the best. And I'm hoping that just for him as well, and turn round and shut a few of the critics and doubters up and just say, do you know what? There's a trophy. As you say, Spurs don't win that many trophies. So he's 90 minutes away from keeping good on that promise.
Yeah, I mean, he, as Celtic manager, he brought us back to being the top team in Scotland, and we clearly weren't when he entered the club, and we lost the league during the COVID season by so many points. So I'll always be grateful for him getting us back to that point and the amazing two years we had. And I'll always kind of hope he does well. Love to see him win that trophy. I think I'm going to even be nervous before that game. I'm going to be really hoping, more than just taking a passing interest, I'm going to be really hoping Spurs win that. I'm not even a Spurs fan. I think their fans are a bit interested in the way they go on about being a big club and having the standards when they don't really win any trophies. So if Ange could change that, it'd be amazing. But I'm looking forward to it.
And also I look upon some of his legacy at Celtic. He gave his Kyogo, he gave his Dyson, because of his CCV, local knowledge of those players. Jota first time around, So I'm very grateful for that. I'm very grateful for the rip roaring, free scoring, never boring football that Celtic played under his tenure for those two cracking years. So listen, I think Celtic supporters remember him fondly. Just the way he left and the suddenness of it all, and certain things that were said in the wake of that, before and after, and certain people turning up on trophy day, i.e. his agent and stuff, walking around the football park, and you're just like, that left a wee sour taste in it. But as I say, you quickly get over it. You just say, okay, what does it always say in the words of Echo and the Bunnymen, bring on the new Messiah wherever he may roam. So that's what Celtic did. So
it
turned out to be Brendan, and we've enjoyed Brendan's tenure thus far as well. So there's always somebody else. When someone leaves, there's always somebody else going to come in, whether that be a player or a manager. The club goes on, doesn't it? It might hurt a wee bit and sting at the time, but you like everything else in football, you quickly move on. You have to.
It's an interesting point here, Raymond. Ange brought in the players that we are still relying on. And I mean, I'm trying to kind of think off the top of my head. I mean, is there any Is there any Brendan Rodgers signings over the past couple of years that you would look at as being totally key players for Celtic yet? I get that it's like Engels, I think, can become that. I guess Kasper Schmeichel would be an obvious one. But other than that, is that a concern at all, the fact that it's still kind of the signings Ange made in terms of CCV, Maida, I guess Callum McGregor was obviously well before that, but could we really do with a couple of big ones this summer, like players that we can really hang our hat on?
I think that will be all part of the discussion that Brendan Rodgers will have with Dermot Desmond once the season is wrapped up and hopefully the treble's in the bag. And still got to go and win that. And he was talking about players training like animals for the next 3 games, and that's what you're hoping happens. But yeah, I think you'll have to factor all these things. I've made this point before, Hamish. If you want to enjoy more nights like Munich, not so much the end result, but the way the team played.
Yeah.
Dermot Desmond and Michael Nicholson had a ringside seat. This manager, has earned the right to go to them in this meeting and say, give me X, Y, Z. And as you say, quality players, not quantity, quality players to really make a difference. And I'll give you more nights like Munich, and we can maybe push that envelope and get to the last 16, get to the last 8, because that's the height of everybody's ambitions, or it should be. That should be your starting template, Hamish. But make the point as well. The most important game Celtic will play next season is that Champions League qualifier.
Yeah, it's huge.
Be ready. Don't be given us a near beat on it centre half type vibe, right? Every time the Champions League qualifiers rolled over, he was at the back of the pack. You know what I mean? Be prepared.
Yeah.
Be prepared in every shape or form. And if you're asking me what Celtic need, I think we need a centre back, a commanding centre back, an enforcer in the midfield, and another striker. There's 3 off the bat. That's 3 quality players that I want right away. Now, you can argue the toss about other positions, but that spine of your team, if you're looking to go into the Champions League qualifiers, no just squeak through. I want to breeze it, Hamish. I want no hassle at all. And just go right into where you think you belong, you believe you belong, and you certainly showed that you belonged last season. No hassle. Let's go and do this. So I think that the manager, those talks will be vital when they sit down with Dermot Desmond and say, right, this is what I want to breeze through this qualifier, because it is the most important game that Celtic will play. People say, the Scottish Cup final, but Champions League qualifier is the next massive cup final for Celtic.
In terms of importance for the club, it'll be the biggest 2 matches we play all season, no doubt, because there's so much riding on it in terms of the prestige and obviously the financial aspect. But you look at the part of this season, that ultra marathon we talked about, and I know there was so many matches, but it was really the Champions League matches amongst that really kept everything going and really gave you a purpose in the season, I guess. Imagine this season we hadn't have had Champions League football. Dare I say, at times the season might have been a little bit of a drag. I think the Champions League stuff really gives us that purpose.
It gave us that edge.
Yeah.
It gave us that edge because from August right through more or less to December, Celtic were flawless, weren't they, really?
Yeah.
They were terrific. And you had that caveat of the Champions League games up against top-tier opposition. We took Leskirden and Dortmund, we took the learnings from that. The first time I've actually heard the words, we're going to learn from this, and watch the team actually grow and learn.
Actually do it, yeah.
And do it, right? First time in my lifetime, I think, well, those just weren't empty words. You actually saw that in practice, and I applaud them for that. And so it was no surprise that when they went out of that competition that the edge dropped, didn't it? They started to drop more points in the Premiership because it sustained you, it fueled the supporters as well, didn't it? And you came so close in the Allianz Arena to one of the best results in your history. So my point being that they did that with a nucleus of a team that people are saying there was Ange's team. I want Brendan's stamp on this now, as well as the marry that together with the players that you're relying on with Ange, because you could really build something here. And this is a time to build. I've no care about what's happening over the other side of the city, because all the talk in the summer is going to be about that. So let's just go about our business efficiently and bring in what you need and listen to the man at the helm who'll tell you what he wants and what he needs, and give him what he needs. You've got to arm him to the teeth and give him the best possible chance if you want to be that club who does compete and be competitive at that stage year in, year out. I see, shut out the noise from the other side. So whatever happens there is fine. It's always about what Celtic do for me, and I think this is the optimum time to really, really turn the screw and say, you know what, let's do this. Let's have a tilt at it again, and give the manager what he wants. If he wants budget for another £11 million player like Engels, go and do it.
And I think we will see that this summer. I think Celtic are going to spend big money again because we have to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much made of, our rivals and them improving. And I think a lot of people, not Celtic fans, but a lot of other people just kind of assume that Rangers are going to improve and Celtic are going to be about this level. I think Celtic can really improve next season as well. I mean, you look at, the thing is, we've had a really, really good season, I would say, overall. Okay, not every game's been perfect, but you're never going to have that, apart from in 16-17 when we went unbeaten. But you look at, I think, a lot of the squad, and you think those guys can be better next season. So you look at, like, Arnie Engels, for example. I think, I know Arnie Engels divides opinion. I think he's going to be a huge player for his next season, with a full pre-season under his belt. You can already see bits of Arnie Engels, even in the past couple of games. Okay, not for 90 minutes, but at times you can see that quality there. And when he grasps, it's almost like grasping Scottish football for him, and learning, I need to be at it every week, and I need to be running games, and I can't let games pass me by. When he gets that, I think he'll be an absolute star for us. And like left backs, obviously, going to be improved next season. Centre back, if it is Austin Trusty we go with, and I know everyone will be shouting at their phone or TV roundabout now, but if it is Trusty and they put faith in Trusty, I think Trusty will be improved next season. If it's not Trusty, and I know there's a lot of chat about signing another centre back, you said it yourself, we got another comment in there, Jerry saying a big strong centre back, then that's improvement there as well. So many, I mean, I guess Jota was one we can probably put off maybe for another year or so, or certainly 6 months, but you're hoping he was going to kick on. But it just feels to me that Celtic have a lot of room for improvement next season. There's a lot of players in that squad that have had good seasons, but it doesn't feel like, this is as good as it gets for them. It feels like a lot of them next season will be looking to kick on. And that, if we have that, as well as adding a few bits of quality in the key positions, like you mentioned, then I think we can really kick on next season again.
And another caveat I would add is, Hamish, can we keep everybody at the club? Why do we have to sell? This is a real time when you say we would make the ultimate statement and say nobody's leaving. Try and fight that as much as you can. I know people will be casting eyes and admiring glances, and there'll be suitors lining up for certain people, but see if you could make that statement and say, you know what, we want to try and build something here, see where it goes, just for a couple of years or at least a season. Say to the manager, nobody leaves. You've got a chance that you can hold on to the manager for longer as well. If you do that, that's you acting like a big club. I keep talking about that, I've mentioned it many times, but act like a big club, act like you belong in these arenas, because see if you do that in Europe, domestic success follows anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if you aim higher, and I think that whetted Rodgers' appetite last season, what Celtic did in the Champions League, and I'm sure it whetted the likes of Dermot Desmond and Michael Nicholson's appetite too. As I say, they were there that night when Celtic put in one of the best away performances I've seen from a Celtic team in a long, long time. As I say, you want more nights like that, then you have to do certain things. You have to keep your players can't sell them at a pivotal time, and you have to. I hate the expression "speculate to accumulate." I hate that, but you have to understand that you need more quality, and you need more quality in certain positions in order to make your mark. You mentioned Jota there. I mean, another winger's not out with the realms of possibility, is it?
Yeah, we need another winger, I'd say. Unless if Dyson's going to play there, then we need a striker.
So
I think we'll maybe get one of those two. I'm not sure we'd get a striker and a winger.
But you'd argue the case for both, wouldn't you? Because that's a bit of a spanner in your works, with Jota being out there.
Yeah. Thinking about it, I probably would. I'd probably say we do actually need both now I've thought about it, because, Jota's going to miss certainly the first half of next season.
Yeah.
So who would you have really as wingers? You'd have, if you call Dyson a winger, you'd have Dyson, Kuhn, James Forrest and Yang, really. And then you'd only really have Adam Ida as a striker. So I'd say, I think we need a striker and a winger.
And also as well, there's all sorts of talk around Kuhn, isn't there? Yeah, So
but is that what you mean? Like, is that the kind of player you're talking about when you say, we don't necessarily sell him? Because that would go against the club's policy, and that if you get an offer of, I don't know, 18 million for Nicholas Kuhn, which I don't think is totally out with the realms of possibility given how he performed in the Champions League, the club probably take that.
I understand that, but again, if you're trying to build something, you would say, can you give us another year? But then I guess people would talk about the season that shall not be named and various players who, Neil Lennon called them out on it, didn't he? Said players don't want to be here and stuff like that. And I understand that's the dilemma you face if there's a player not wanting to be here. But that's your problem you're going to have. If somebody comes in with, as you say, something like that for Nicholas Kuhn, I think Celtic probably would sell him, wouldn't they?
Kyogo is a perfect example, isn't he? Because Kyogo earlier this season, possibly earlier than this season, even made it pretty clear that he wanted to leave the club and move to a more competitive league. And Celtic basically said, yeah, okay, when the time is right, aka next transfer window, if the offer comes in, then we'll let you go. And we've kind of ended up with the second half of the season without replacing him. And we've kind of managed to an extent because Dyson's gone up there, but I still don't think that was great from the club, allowing someone like Kyogo to leave and not replacing him.
Yeah, and that's hindsight. It's fine because you can say Dyson stepped up to the plate and then some, because he is by definition a striker and he can do that. So that it softened that blow a bit, didn't it? Because when Kyogo left, everybody was like, right, and the manager even said himself, I want somebody to replace him. And then everybody know he was unhappy that he didn't get somebody to replace him. So still not replaced him, if you want to be honest about that. So they're going to have to. There's talk of him coming back, etc., etc. Don't know how Celtic supporters would feel about that. I love Kyogo, but I don't know if I'd have him back. I'd want a fresh
move forward. Yeah,
indeed. I know people say that they brought Jota back, but I love Jota. I like Jota, and Jota's,
Jota's younger as well, isn't he?
Yeah, a bit different as well. So, I just think that there's a lot of conversations that are going to need to be had, Hamish, in terms of, can everybody stay on board? Why can't they resist any offers that come in for their players in order to try and go into the Champions League again and see where they can take it? But if they do, then they have to make a quick decision on who that asset will be that they sell. Is it Kuhn? Is it Hatate? It certainly cannot be Maeda. You know what I mean?
No.
That would be my one and only demand. You cannot sell Maeda. But I get every player has a price and it'd have to be utterly ridiculous. But if Celtic are to part with an asset this summer, then Brendan and Dermot are going to have to say, right, it's either this or this, isn't it? And I think the two that fall into that category are Kuhn and Maeda, aren't they? Sorry, not Kuhn and Hatate.
Yeah, I mean, Hatate's the one that I've got in my mind, definitely.
Yeah. So, and again, I look at Hatate, who blows hot and cold, doesn't he? And I'm not convinced that people or clubs are ready to shell out crazy money for Hatate.
Don't think it'd be crazy money. I think you at this stage you'd maybe get something like 7 or 8 million for Hatate.
Yeah, and I think Celtic would want double figures in millions for Hatate. And I've said this before: if somebody comes in with that, then they maybe get a seat at the table or a phone call, or they get listened to, don't they? And then you take it from there. But 7 or 8 million, I don't think Celtic would do business for. But if you go over the 10 mark, say between 10 and 12, then that's possible that Celtic might say, okay, let's talk. How serious are you in terms of Hatate? Because and I like Hatate. I think he's one of the most gifted footballers that we have in this country. And that well-stocked phrase, on his game, he's the best midfielder in the country. But sometimes he's not on his game, is he? Which is why I don't think those huge money offers have come in terms of like Matt O'Reilly, that kind of thing. And everybody just thought Hatate would be the next one to do that. The player maybe thought that himself for a while too.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah, I mean, Hatate to me feels the most likely one to leave, just because he's been at the club for 3.5 years.
Yeah.
And I think we always feel Hatate kind of wants to move to a more competitive league, probably help his chances with Japan. And also, I know I take the point that Hatate's been a brilliant player for us, and I think recently he's actually been one of our best players over the last 3 or 4 matches. Was good at Ibrox, but I do think you could replace him. It wouldn't necessarily be easy, but I think the club could move Hatate on, get some decent money, and spend a good chunk of that money on finding a player who's maybe a little bit more consistent, and that's kind of what we want. Because I mean, Hatate's been a good player for us overall, but this season he has been frustrating at times. I don't think we should overlook that either. So yeah, that's definitely what I'd be looking to do. But I've got the manager's words in my mind at the moment when he was talking a few weeks ago about having to keep things fresh, and that's the way you keep going with a winning team. So we're definitely going to have a different looking starting 11 for the start of next season. But I think that's really exciting. But there's so many different players there. Guys like Yang as well. You just think there's a bit more in someone like Yang than we've seen so far. And if he gets a good pre-season, I don't know. Yang strikes me as the kind of player that could explode and turn out to be a bit of a star for us. I think there's something there with Yang.
Could take the league by surprise, certainly, and also as well, I made the point that I loved Paulo Bernardo's cameo last Sunday. So I think there's certainly scope for Paulo Bernardo to step up as well.
Yeah.
If someone like Hatate were to leave. And I would have no qualms about that, because I think there's a very gifted and talented footballer in the shape of Paulo Bernardo. I take on board that I think Engels will be a much improved player. You've had a year to bed in. You get it now. You've had a couple of nominations for Young Player of the Year. You understand it. And, the manager's choice of words, which he laughed at when I reminded him of it, that it's not a holiday camp, Here, you're playing a game, 3 days rest, a game, 4 days rest, a game. That's just the way it is. And if you think this season was bad, you need to do it all again next season, my friend. You can't just sit back and go like that. Oh, look what I've won. This is great. What do you need to do? You need to do it all again. All right. And if you slip from that high standard, people will let you know. That he's in a country where a bad 15 minutes can get scrutinised to the tiniest minutiae detail, and people say he's not on it. That's the pressure these players play in now. It's not just a bad game. You can skew stats to say he had a terrible 15 minutes here and there, and that's just the way of the world. But Brendan Rodgers always talks about that pressure of being a Celtic player and handling that. That's why it's not easy to do what they're doing, Hamish. People just take it as as a given and for granted that, Celtic have the most money, they buy the best players. Hey presto, it's a treble. Got to go and win it. And I make the point all the time that got to peak for 38 games and keep peaking for the cup competitions and then peak even more, even higher levels for the Champions League. Some players can handle that. Some players can't, because it's a big, big ask. And then when you talk about, you can pinpoint it to, he wasn't very good in this game, or he wasn't very good in this, I used the phrase there 15 minutes, but that's what it's like. Everything that you do as a player is scrutinised, and that's pressure. And then you say to somebody, you think that's pressure, go and do it again. Go and do it again for all the campaign. He's like, oh man, players can go into a tailspin because of that, because they think to themselves, I've not a chance to celebrate this. That's but guys like Callum McGregor, that's why you've got guys like Callum McGregor who's constantly talking about the next one. So he's thinking about the Scottish Cup. And then once that's over with, he'll be like, right, next season, the Champions League qualifiers. That's the mentality you have to have. Celebrate it when your career's finished. You turn around and say, somebody says, what did you win? You say, I won that. I did that. I achieved that. But while you're in that bubble, and it's hard. Some players can cope with it, others can't. Difficult,
Yeah. Okay. Just going back to the start of this debate about half an hour ago, Ange Postecoglou, which started all this off, I did notice, don't know if you saw this, there's 6 Premier League teams in the Champions League phase next season. So, what is it, 36 teams in it?
Yeah.
A sixth of them are going to be from the one country, England. So they're going to have, I think they've got the top 5 in the league, and they're now going to have the Europa League winner as well. So, first point would be, if we make it there, you're thinking there's a fair chance we're going to have at least one game against an English side, given that there's 6 of them there. Second point was Bodo Glimt can no longer obviously win the Europa League. So they're now confirmed to be in the Champions League playoff round. I think they're actually the only, ourselves and Bodo Glimt, the 2 confirmed teams in that round at the moment. They'll definitely be seeded. We're not definitely seeded. I still think Celtic will be seeded, but if we do manage, it's going to be pretty close. I think we're going to maybe be the final seeded team if we get there. I won't bore you with all the details, but you're hoping we're seeded, because as much as we're a good side, and I don't think we'd be like massive underdogs in any tie. And this would be a daft thing to say, what I'm about to say. Maybe a couple of years ago you'd have laughed at me, but you wouldn't fancy someone like Bodo Glimt in a 2-legged tie just to get to the Champions League. You'd really want Celtic to be seeded and hopefully have a slightly lower standard of opponent. Not that it will be easy. I think every tie we can get is going to be a tough one, but it's to get into the Champions League.
If there's that kind of jeopardy, Hamish, attached to it, that's why preparation's key. That's why you've got to get the players in. That's why you've got to make sure that you can, I'm not saying breeze the qualifiers, but whoever you get, you can, negotiate it with the minimum of fuss. So that's why these talks between the manager and the majority shareholder are crucial in terms of the recruitment drive in the summer and what we're going to do. All hinges on that. The players that you bring in to make these qualifiers easy on yourself, because these are the hugest games that Celtic will play in a long, long time, this qualifier. And yeah, seeded or not, you just want to be ready for it regardless. And yeah, I don't think anybody would fancy Bodo Glimt, would they? But you play who you're drawn against, and if it's Bodo or whoever, then so be it. We can't control that draw, but you want to give yourself the best possible chance, and that is having a team worthy of the name get in there and being able to just say, right, we can do this, and get yourself back to where you were last year, which was brilliant. As you say, it sustained us for the majority of that first part of the season, didn't it?
Yeah. Okay, we've not even mentioned tomorrow's game, so apologies for getting you here on false pretenses, but I kind of feel like you probably would rather we spoke about the summer and various players that could come and go, and looking ahead to the Champions League qualifier than maybe tomorrow's game. But tomorrow's game is still a game, and hopefully we get a good game. First of all, I think Hibs will come and give us a match, and I think Hibs will try and win the match as well, which should make for an open game, hopefully. And hopefully Celtic can get another 3 points, and we can all feel good. And hopefully you all have a good day in the sun or watching at home, whatever you're doing. Tony, there'll be plenty of videos before and after the game, so we're treating it with the respect it deserves. Hopefully Celtic do the same. And I'll return on Monday to look back at it all. Have a good weekend, everyone.